Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys a review of Modern Primitive by Septicflesh. So we've listened to this album non-stop for an entire week, and I'll take the floor here and say that it was pretty enjoyable. I did like it, but there was something that you said last week in our new releases video where we covered this album for the first time that kind of stuck with me throughout the week.
And what did I do?
You mentioned last week that this is they kind of played it safe with this album, that it's kind of just, another Septicflesh album. And I thought about that, and I said, you know what? It kind of is. Like, I'm listening to this album thinking, like, yeah, this is good, there's cool parts here and there, but I'm like, well, this is kind of just what you come to expect from this band, and that's really it.
Yeah.
However, that chunk of songs in the second half, I still found myself gravitating towards. I feel like in that chunk, they really just turned up on the riffs. The riffs were heavier, they were crazier, they were a bit more interesting and had a bit more contour to them overall. So I feel like, not to say that the first half didn't have that at all. It's just I felt like it was just better in the second half there. And I felt like if the first half made me feel the way the second half makes me feel, it would be more of a complete package. Not to say the first half isn't bad. Once again, it's still pretty good, but it's just that second half is really the highlight for me. There were some melodies that kind of just caught my ear, mainly the ones in Hierophant and Modern Primitives. And they were standing out as I heard them, and I think it's actually really good on this album to have catchy melodies in a what you could call either black metal or symphonic death metal, whatever you want to call it. Genre to a degree can be up for interpretation. But for genres like those to really have the gripping and catchy melodies is pretty impressive, because you don't really see that too often. And I did kind of find, though, that generally in the first chunk and the second chunk, the album kind of had the same vibe going on. I didn't really feel there was much of a whole album contour. It was just like single song contour. But throughout the album, it's just like, okay, this is the same kind of vibe to a degree. It didn't really feel like it was really taking me somewhere. It just kind of like put me in a room and blasted some Septicflesh, as opposed to taking me on this journey through the Septicflesh album.
I get what you're saying. About the whole thing about, they're kind of just doing the same thing they always do. It's hard to fault a band for doing that. It really is, and it's not really fair. But the thing is, when you're reviewing an album, like we're here to critique this album, it's hard to find positive things to say about bands when they just do their thing over and over again. It's a good thing, and it doesn't mean it sounds bad, but it's really hard to reach out and grab things that stand out when you're doing the same formula over and over again. But again, it's good stuff. They're putting out good music here. In our first impressions, I had a 3-song pack that I thought was the highlight of the album. That was tracks 4, 5, and 6, Neuromancer, Coming Storm, and A Desert Throne. I thought that chunk was the highlight of the album. I still think that's a great chunk, but my favorite songs have shifted a little bit. Coming Storm is still one of my top songs, but Hierophant became a top song of mine. Definitely one that stands out. It's just got such a big, threatening sound to it. I really like the presence of this song. But the song that shot up to number 1 for me was Psychohistory, track number 8. I like it for a few different reasons. It's got this chugging style riff that goes throughout the song. Not just one riff, but a couple different ones that are very chuggy feeling. And that makes it stand out amongst other tracks. It gives it more of a raw, grimy kind of feel, where the other songs almost have like an elegance to them, if you can understand that contrast, which is pretty cool. The chorus of this song hits hard. The intro and throughout the song has very evil sounding symphonic elements, very reminiscent of like Karak Angren, which, just going back to the whole genre thing, I think one of the reasons why we attribute this to, we called it black metal before, and somebody corrected us in the comments saying it's death metal. I think it's because it reminds us of bands that are more akin to black metal, like Dimmu Borgir and Karak Angren. So there's certain elements that are there that are reminiscent of black metal, and that's kind of where we drew that comparison. But I definitely do think it's more in line with death metal, but genre schmonra, whatever, it is what it is. The album was good throughout the week, but it didn't impress me overly, right? Unfortunately to say, but I can't really think of anything really bad about it. There was nothing that pissed me off. There was nothing that annoyed me. There was no tracks that were skippable. It was just every song was like, this is a good song. This is a good song. This is a good song. And then Psychohistory comes on. I'm like, okay, playlist.
Yeah. Yeah, I put that song on my playlist as well. That's probably, I don't know if it's my number one, but most likely my number one, Psychohistory. And it's funny you mentioned contrast with that song, because I made a similar note saying that Psychohistory has a really interesting contrast to the track before it being the title track, because that track is kind of sad sounding with a melodic, focus. Then you have Psychohistory, which is just super duper brutal, a complete turn on its head, and I love that song. Like, the entirety of that song is great. Other best moments for me, the syncopated breakdown at like the 1:30 mark of A Desert Throne. Love that part every time it comes on. But yeah, Psychohistory, like that, killer track. I really love that one. So I guess with that being said, might be a good time to rate this album. I guess I'll go first. This is a solid album. I did enjoy it quite a bit. It just didn't really feel like it was clicking the right buttons to say this is a toe tag album for me, but I still do like it quite a bit, and a few songs made it into my playlist as well. This is gonna get a 7 for me.
That was well put. I like the not clicking the right buttons thing. That's definitely how I felt about it as well, where I was enjoying the album through and through, but it just, I wasn't thrilled about it. Nothing was like screaming at me like, I gotta listen to this again. This is going in the playlist. It's gonna get a 6.5 for me. I don't think it was quite a 7, but it's still a solid album. I think everybody should give it a chance at least, because our opinions are just our opinions, and you guys might love this album or maybe hate it, who knows. But 6.5 for me, and a 7 for you. I think those are decent scores.
Pretty good scores, especially considering, to remind you guys, that our scores are from 1 to 10, but a toe tag is an 8 or higher, so 6.5 and 7 is pretty good on that scale.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, that's all we got for you today. Remember to like this video if you liked it, and tell us in the comments below, what do you think of this album now that it's been a week since its release. We always love to hear what you guys have to say. And subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Wild Stealth.
And keep those horns up.